Hello and welcome to Just One More Watch, and welcome today to another list style video quite deliberately timed to coincide with the AliExpress mid-year sale. There's a sale on AliExpress roughly every 26.5 minutes, but I concentrate my videos and my purchases around the three biggest and best sales of the year, this being one of them. And this video is a San Martin video. They are without a doubt the most prolific brand on AliExpress. When their sequential model numbers here in this video range from 118 to 132, you know they've made quite a few watches over the last 5 years or so. Indeed, I've made a number of top 10 San Martin videos already. Today though, it's only a top 5. 5 watches that I think are worthy of your attention and perhaps a little bit of your cash. I'm going to give you a mini review on each of them today with pros, but also with cons, of course. Now, you saw the pop-up? This video is sponsored by the San Martin official store. I will therefore, of course, leave links to all 5 watches in the description of the video in the order that I show them, all from the San Martin official store. Now, the sale hasn't quite started yet, but you can add these watches to your cart, lock in the sale price, and then come back and check out in a couple of days' time when the sale begins. What's on the list today? Well, a really rich-looking lookalike diver, a Pilot, a GMT, and at number 5, the last watch on the list, what I think might be the nicest dial I've seen on a San Martin so far. Let's get on with it. And let's start with their most recent release, the highest number, the San Martin SN0132, their new Turbine dial pilot's watch. These are available in 2 different colours, a more sombre black with white numerals or a more vibrant white with orange numerals. Both are priced the same, both of them are $194 during the current sale. Oddly enough, I asked them to send me the white and orange one. All of these watches, by the way, come with exactly the same packaging arrangement. There's a warranty card, instruction manual, a little hang tag, a screwdriver, and spring bar removal tool as appropriate, all contained in a little green leatherette tub. Now, they call this one a pilot's watch clearly because of the dial, because of the big Arabics, the triangle at 12, the sword hands, and it's all very legible. But if you look at the case and bracelet, it definitely has that silhouette of a Rolex Submariner style watch, but with a fixed bezel rather than a dive style bezel. Now, that is an observation rather than a criticism, because this style of watch suits the vast majority of wrists, especially with these dimensions. 40mm in diameter, 20mm between the lugs, thickness of bang on 12mm, and a lug to lug of 48. The bracelet on this one tapers down to 16 and back up to 18 at the on the fly adjustable clasp. Again, every watch today has an adjustable clasp. Size for my 7-inch wrist, it weighs in at 144 grams. 100 meters of water resistance, flat sapphire with AR coating, and a Seiko NH35 in the back. Sterile case back on this one, just underlining the fact that they probably based it on one of their Submariner lookalike cases. NH35 means ghost date position, but at this price, I'm not gonna complain. Case finishing is always really nice from San Martin. This watch is no exception. The brushing is fantastic, and there's a nice little chamfer on each of the lugs and a high polish ring on the bezel, breaking up the 2 brushed areas. The fact that most of the watch, however, is brushed means it will wear better long term if you treat it roughly. The dial is a lot of fun with those big Arabics and that turbine pattern. That is certainly something you don't see every day. And neither is orange lume. It looks pretty spectacular after dark. Negatives, well, I only had to remove 1 spare link, so big guys should probably message San Martin about getting a couple of extras. And it wears like a 40mm Submariner. If you don't like the way that watch or its myriad clones wears, then you won't like the way this watch wears either. But overall, it's a pilot's watch with a twist, pun very much intended. The bright dial was a big part of the draw for me as well. Next up, it's a GMT, the SN0119. San Martin have gone all in on the Seiko NH34 GMT movement since it was launched a couple of years ago. It feels like every second or third release contains said movement. I'm personally a big fan of the 0116, but this 0119 is also very nice. This one comes in 3 different colours, either on an FKM Tropic rubber strap or on a mesh bracelet with on-the-fly adjustment. The price does vary depending on your strap choice, but not on your colour choice. They sent me the green one, but I think all 3 are actually really attractive. Prices are from $231 to $272. Now this is a 41mm in diameter watch, 13.4mm thick, with a lug-to-lug of 48mm, 20mm between the lugs. Now I'll give you 2 weights. On the rubber it comes in at 98 grams, and on the mesh, which is really nice, high quality mesh by the way, it comes in at approximately 139 grams before you start removing links. This one has 200 meters of water resistance, double dome sapphire with AR, and as discussed, a Seiko NH34. The case on this one is all high polish with a coin edge 120 click dive time bezel with ceramic insert. The real standout here though is the dial and hands. We get a James Cameron style top to bottom fade, applied indices, and a properly colour matched date wheel. They've also mixed in a second colour on the chapter ring and a third colour on the tip of the second hand. Sometimes I feel like they don't quite get the colour mix right, but on this particular model, all 3 colour versions are perfectly palatable. Both strap options are very nice. The FKM is soft and flexible, and the mesh is really good. You size it in roughly 8mm sections using screws. It feels sturdy, but it's not too heavy. Not so heavy anyway that it overpowers the watch head. And this is the first time I've seen this clasp on a San Martin. It's the usual 1cm of ratcheting on the fly adjustment, but the scissor here is beautifully sculpted. On wrist, on mesh anyway, it definitely has a baby Breitling Super Ocean feel about it, and believe me, that is no bad thing at all. Perhaps it's partly the mesh and the straight cut end links, but there are more than a few shiny surfaces here and there. The case, the bezel, yeah, definitely a little bit of Breitling bling about this one. Moans and niggles, well, the FKM rubber does not have quick release spring bars. The sterile case back is a bit boring. And also it's brushed, it doesn't really go with the polished case. And the minute markers are basically non-existent on the top half of the dial due to the heavy fade. And the loom is good, but I still want more of it. It would have got an extra point for a fully loomed bezel insert here rather than just a loom pip. But overall, if you haven't already bought one of their colourful 4-handers, here's another one to tempt you to part with some of your hard-earned money. Alright, number 3 is definitely a lookalike. This is the SN0128. And with those golden snowflake hands, it can only be trying to look like a Tudor. Tudor have been releasing numerous versions of their Black Bay range recently, so brands like San Martin have been releasing numerous of their own versions. This one is on a Jubilee bracelet, which gets a thumbs up from me anyway. But Tudor do not do a brown waffle dial like this, do they? The dial is actually really nice and features a fade as well as that textured pattern. All indices are applied and surrounded in high polished gold, as are the snowflake hands, as is the applied San Martin logo. But there is just a little bit of white here in the form of the printed water resistance rating and a minute track. It's a really nice bezel insert as well, high gloss ceramic. The gold, the ceramic, the mid links of the Jubilee really give this one a lot of presence. Of all of the watches in today's video, this one looks the most expensive by quite some margin. But it isn't. You can get these with either a grey waffle dial or a brown waffle dial. Same price, $199.48. Great dimensions on this one too, dropping neatly in between Tudor's 2 sizes. This one is 40.4mm in diameter, 12.2mm thick with a lug-to-lug of 49mm. 20mm between the lugs with a nice taper on that Jubilee. Weight as sized for my 7-inch wrist is 140 grams. Crystal is double dome sapphire with AR, and the movement once again is a Seiko NH35. Moans and niggles, well, I don't think anyone is going to claim that that waffle dial makes it an original design or even less of a lookalike, but it is a nice point of difference nonetheless. And is that snowflake hour hand perhaps just a little bit too small for the rest of the watch? But if you don't mind any of that, this is one of the best looking and sweetest wearing San Martins that I have ever had the pleasure of reviewing, and considering I have reviewed so many, that's actually high praise indeed. But we are not done yet. What is your favourite flavour of ice cream? If we're not getting too boutique, I like rum and raisin, pistachio and mint choc chip. If you also like mint choc chip, number 4 is the watch for you. That's what it reminds me of anyway. Hey, if brands are putting pineapple chunks in the dial of watches these days, then I'm allowed to reference ice creams here for sure. Now, some of these San Martin designs are beginning to look quite similar. The 116 GMT that I've looked at before, the 119 that I just showed you, and this 118 all have a similar look to the dial and hands, the bezel, etc., but they all have quite different cases. This one is an all brush case but with really sharply downturned lugs, so it's going to be great for those of you with smaller than average wrists. And you can see what I mean about the ice cream reference. Minty green dial, brown bezel insert, brown FKM Tropic, and orange lume on the hands, the indices, and the lume pip for good measure. Again, it's a properly colour matched date wheel, just like we saw with the 119. Again, there are 3 versions of this one available, both on FKM and mesh. It's the same mesh, by the way, as the 119, so I won't bother showing you on that again. Mint green, light blue or orange dials, all with complementary bezel and chapter ring colours, all priced from $188 to $223 depending on your strap choice. This one is also 40.4mm in diameter, 12.5mm thick with a 47.2 lug to lug, 20mm between the lugs, and as supplied on the rubber, it weighs 95 grams, so around 135 grams on the mesh with all links. 200 meters of water resistance, double dome sapphire crystal, and no surprises, it's another Seiko NH35 in the back. If you're paying between $200 and $400 for a watch, it will probably be NH powered. That's okay with me. That means the brand puts the maximum amount of money into small details like textured dials, applied indices, beautiful case finish, logo, crowns, decent lume, etc, etc. Complaints about this one, it might not be the same as the 116, but it has an equally ungainly second hand. I just don't particularly like this second hand, especially the counterbalance. The second hand in most cases, in most watches, should be deliberately the least noticeable hand of the 3. And in this case, it's arguably the most noticeable hand of the 3. And the colour combinations here are a bit out there. Not everyone wants to wear a pizza or an ice cream on their wrist, I'll grant you. But if you do, this one's for you. Alright, number 5, I've been saving one of my favourites till the end. A really sweet little watch, this one. I said the dial was a highlight, but the price is also a highlight. It's the SN0129 and I got sent this beautiful wave dial in a lovely red fade. This is another San Martin that just is outrageously well finished for the money they're asking. Polish brush, polish brush, polish brush from top to bottom, applied multifaceted high polish indices, boxed double dome sapphire. It is just amazingly rich looking considering the modest price tag. That modest price tag being $225 for any of the 3 different colour versions. There's a white, there's a brown and there's a red, all feature an organic looking wave pattern. Now some brands will liken this to ripples on a lake, others to desert sand. I'm not really sure that those organic inferences apply in this case. It's just a really attractive looking colour with a nice pattern and nice texture to it. In terms of dimensions, this is one of these slightly smaller watches today at 39.5mm in diameter, but it is a bit chunky at 13mm thick. Lug to lug though, shortest of the bunch at 46. Now standard 20mm lug width, and as supplied on this 3-link oyster style bracelet and as sized for my 7-inch wrist, it weighs in at 142 grams, so it does have a wee bit more chunk per millimeter, but still weighs pretty much the same as the others. Crystal is boxed double dome sapphire, water resistance is 100 meters, and do I even need to tell you the movement? Probably not. This one is really all about the dial, but don't overlook the case finish because it is remarkably nice. I'm sure the white is okay, but the other 2 colours are where the interest lies from me anyway. Complaints? Well, the now standard complaint of a sterile case back. And this one, interestingly, does not have a colour match date wheel. The date, therefore, is far more legible as a consequence, but it also does rather stick out in a way that it didn't on some of the other coloured dials today. Cracking watch though, and again one that looks far more expensive than the modest price tag would suggest that it would be. So there you have it, even more new San Martins to bulk up a range that was already enormous. They must have 60 different models now available, each of them in 3 or 4 different colours. That is a huge number of watches for a single brand that is under 10 years old, and I'm not even talking about old models that have been discontinued up to this point. Today, Pilot, GMT, Diver, GADA, a little bit of everything quite deliberately, all admittedly though powered by the same pretty basic movement, but all differentiated by their cases, bracelets, and in particular their dials. I really rate the Tudor lookalike, but if you haven't spotted it already, the red SN0129 is my personal favourite from this bunch. I reckon they will sell a lot of these, especially at that price during the sale. If nothing here tickled your fancy, like I said, you're not short of options with the brand. Check here or check here for 20 more of my favourites. Thanks for making it all the way to the end. Happy bargain hunting during the sale.